We're back, part 2, paint protection film install in the garage here. You see Bradley in the background going through and getting ready to lay the film, so we've got the solutions all mixed up. We'll go over all that here in a minute, but before we dive into this, real quick shout out to Bradley here from flying up from Naples, all the way up from nice sunny Florida to cold Pennsylvania. Yeah. Bradley owns Naples Auto Armour, and he's pretty much an expert in PPF and has OCD and or more as I am. So really I was like, hey buddy, I haven't seen you in a while. I got an idea. I've got a plan. Somehow I've convinced him to come up here and spend a couple days with me and
leave the 70 degree beautiful sunshine. And
listen, it's not snowing yet, okay? We're fine. But I've somehow convinced him to come up here and teach me this. This is something I've always wanted to learn, and realistically, you just have to get your hands on it and play with it, and I figured what better car specimen to work on than my own car. So this is going to take a little longer than it normally would, but it's because I want to stop, learn it, and also share this with you. This is our slip solution, so this is our mixture. I'm not going to tell you what's in here. You guys can probably Google PPF slip solution, but kind of Bradley's own proprietary.
It's not baby shampoo.
Yeah, it's not baby shampoo with water. It's something that he sent me to a website to buy, and I've never heard of it before, but I trust him. He says it's magical. But anyways, this is the stuff you're gonna spray this down on the panel, and then you're gonna lay the film down on the panel, and that allows you to kind of, if you've seen film install, move it around. Again, I'll show you all of this. And then you have your tacking solution here, and this stuff basically sprays down when you're ready to lock in the position of the film. You'll spray this in there, and that kind of washes away the slip solution and allows the adhesive then to stick to the panel. Obviously we have measurements here because certain areas we're going to be what we call bulking, and essentially there's templates for all sorts of panels. Now we are using a combination of templates and bulking, like the hood. Because it's a flat, in a sense, a square, we're gonna measure a big piece, lay it down, cut about 1/4 of an inch or a little more around the edge so we can roll that around. The film we're going to be using right here, STEK film, STEK Dyno Shield, right Bradley?
Correct.
Heard nothing but great things, especially with the clarity. So in theory, when we put this on, only the templated areas, you'll be able to see some lines. That was my choice, just so we didn't have to disassemble some panels, but essentially it's going to look exactly like this. I mean, you will not see any texture. It'll be super glossy, and the nice thing is super hydrophobic, and itself kind of cleans itself. I mean, if you really just lightly rinse it with a pressure washer, it reacts like it has stuff on it. So I'm really excited to utilize that. Anything else that I'm missing?
You really get the benefit of both worlds. You get, the PPF, the thickness of the PPF, and then, on the top layer, you get basically a ceramic coating that's sprayed on through the manufacturing process. So it's going to bond a lot better with the film, rather than if you get a non-top coated film and you apply a coating, afterwards. Well,
and the nice thing is, from what I understand, is you don't have to put a coating on this. You can put a wax on it. You can treat it just as if it's standard paint. So even though it has some of that built into the film, you don't have to put special toppers and things like you normally would have to on a coating. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's like you said, the best of both worlds. I'm in the fence where I'd rather not even have a coating and just have film. So there's a big misconception. Before we dive into this, we'll hit this right off the bat. You know where I'm going with this. Film versus coating. And there's certain companies that market coatings as paint protection. Yeah. While it's paint protection,
resistant, scratch resistant,
it's not. No. The best way, well, really the only way to prevent your car from getting rock chips is to not drive it.
Yeah.
But
the optimal way.
The optimal way is to put film on the car. Most commonly, everybody does pretty much front end, what we call a full front. So it's usually mirrors, A-pillars, everything forward.
Headlights.
Yeah, we're doing the whole car. So because of the color and everything like that, I don't want to worry about it. And it's also self-healing. So, we get any swirling, scratching in it, park it outside in the sun, hot day, and you'll come out with nothing. So to me, the benefit of using STEK in a film is less worries, is really what it is. I can drive the car, I can enjoy the car, especially in the winter. I plan on driving this when it's crappy weather out, as long as there's no snow on the ground. The problem is Pennsylvania dumps cinders everywhere. So it's For me, this is a peace of mind thing. If you guys can jump into it, I highly suggest it. But with that being said, I think we're ready to pretty much lay some film down. So we're gonna get to it. Luna over here is like a dog. So I've had to leave the door open and then put like a makeshift dog gate. So Rupes, if you're watching, your nano thing in your Rupes bag is a cat gate, otherwise known as a dog gate. Luna gate. What are you doing? She always wants out here. So we have the table marked 2010. So I have an idea where we're going. We obviously have our cutout bulked piece. If this was a pattern, it'd be in the shape, you know, graphed out and plotted in the shape of the hood.
So
but
60 by 60.
Right.
Size of the hood.
Right, which we talked about how we're bulking it is the term. So you guys are gonna hear bulking a lot through this, but what's the next step now?
So basically flipping it over and taking the protective liner that's on the film. So you can see this is really rigid. You know, it's sitting upright. So there's a protective liner that basically it's a gloss enhancer. So it keeps the gloss of the film while it's sitting in the roll and before you use it. So take that off and then we're almost ready. So over, and then you can saw the film there. So basically going through prepping the panel with 99% alcohol. Basically clean it as thoroughly as you can, edges, under the hood, wherever the film is going to stick. You want to make sure the panel is extremely basically surgically clean. This will strip anything that's on here. I mean, there's nothing on here because we've done so much prep, but what I do, this is not something that everyone does, it's just something that I like to do. I use some sort of detail spray. Doesn't really matter what it is. I wouldn't use something that's wax based. This is like a polymer based detail spray. All it does is adds a little bit of slickness for the film, and it also helps with dust attraction. So
keeps dust away.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it'll be a couple of minutes from when I'm over there getting the film on. So it'll help with dust, and also when the film's on, you know, if a piece of dirt or something does happen to get under the film, it doesn't want to stick to the panel.
Right, you can easily adjust it and correct it. Cool.
Exactly.
I don't think I have to explain this part.
It's basically clean, clean, and clean. So we just roll this out of the roll, but I don't know, you know, manufacturing, whatever. I don't know if this is clean. So I'm gonna make sure before I'm starting to transfer something with a sticky backing, my tables have already been cleaned. You know, the air has been, you know, we've cleaned the space. Just to ensure cleanliness and consistency. I always clean the film.
You're gonna see a lot of spray bottles in the next sequence of videos here. We're gonna kind of go in depth as I can with the hood basically, and kind of let Bradley run with that and talk you through that and this and that, because again, he's the expert, so you'll see me asking a lot of questions and him kind of giving a professional answer as to why they do certain things or why he does certain things a certain way. But we'll use kind of the hood as like the subject of the video for this, and then essentially we're going to take those principles and put them and apply them to the rest of the car. So he's getting that all cleaned up, and then we're going to transfer this over and I'll show you that. Flipped it over, he's spraying under here.
Yeah, so this is the gloss side.
Right, yeah, this is the side that'll be facing the outside of the car, the elements, and this is the backing piece, and he's just basically doing that so when he peels the backing off, it's fixed to the table. He's going to spray the same slip solution and load this surface up essentially, and you're going to basically cover it all. Transfer this over.
I usually like to spray the air too.
Right
before, just so there's dust in the air.
It grabs it and keeps it. And by the way, since we washed the car in here, we squeegeed it out and the floor is still kind of damp, and that actually helps keep dust and dirt on the floor. So just a little pro tip, even if you're putting like just doing a coating and not PPF, if you're working inside and you think the floor is dirty, like just spray the floor down with water and do that every couple minutes, like half hour every hour. And that's kind of a little tip to keep dust and stuff from coming up as you walk around and work through it. So here you guys can hopefully see, it's a little bright, but it is just fully loaded. So I'm gonna have to put the camera down. I'm gonna transfer this over and I'll pick you guys right back up.
So we're going through and just doing our final cleaning. So slip solution on the panel, taking just your general squeegee that you used to install, and squeezing all the water off and respraying water and slip solution, just to get all the final contamination and any dust that might have settled on there, and just give it a good final cleaning. Here's your bulk piece of film. I oversized quite a bit just to be safe.
Right.
A little bit of extra film doesn't hurt.
Get you guys off the tripod here and get a little close up. So this is what I was saying about bulk. You see it looks like this massive piece of film, and we're just gonna kind of trim it down. Well, I say we, but Bradley's gonna kind of trim it down accordingly, and you'll start seeing the shape. Yeah, it was a big square. You saw us lifting it over there. Essentially just cut out the hood, and then what that slip solution does is allows him to, you know, move this all around and get it kind of all where he needs it, where he wants it to be. And then he'll tack it down, which we'll get to that.
So, I mean, this is a fairly basic panel. Everything's pretty flat. So there's not really much stretching or anything involved.
Kind of smoothing out, getting the initial big bubbles out. And what I'm noticing from somebody who's not done this before is you just spray whenever you can. Lubrication and lubrication.
Yep. So with panels like this, I split it into 4 quadrants. Just makes it easier to maneuver and stretch.
Right.
So gives you a nice area that you can.
It gives you a space to work.
Yeah,
work
exactly.
through it.
A manageable workspace, and
Kind of like polishing.
Yep, exactly.
Break it down in pieces.
Yep.
So this is the tack solution, right?
Yeah,
so this is going to clean out the slip solution.
Yep, it flushes out the slip to allow the adhesive to activate.
And it's tacked.
And the big thing here is just making sure that you're overlapping your squeegee passes.
Like half, like 50-50.
Yeah, firm pressure, making sure that you're getting all of that moisture out.
And don't stop it, like full stroke, right?
Yep, correct.
So don't kind of hesitate and keep going. If you're gonna hesitate, lift up, right?
Yep.
So those are just some of the things that I'm learning and seeing. You know, I've seen this done before, but I haven't really had a chance to do it myself. So I'm gonna sit here and watch Bradley do some of the panels. The roof, I'll probably do some of this just because it's flat and square, or maybe I'll do the wing or something. I don't know, but like the front bumper, nope. We're real fancy around here. We have really expensive hood props. Honestly, it looks way better than raw paint. Like this shot right here with the reflection of all the lights.
Yeah, it'll flatten the paint out. So
Right.
especially when I do Teslas. Teslas are notorious for having fairly crappy paint. Clients always notice that the front end of their car looks better than the rest of the paint.
Right. But that's, yeah, like it almost, I don't want to say removes orange peel, but like the reflection of the light, the clarity is a lot smoother, which that's, I mean, you guys are seeing this on the reflection, like that's really impressive. And obviously why we take the emblem off, you guys can see, we'll cut around here, so when we put the emblem on, even these edges up here are tucked away. I don't know if this is gonna come up on camera, but you guys can see, it's thick stuff. I mean, it's a plastic, like I can't even, it's a little malleable, but it's not like a vinyl wrap or a sticker. It's literal plastic. You guys saw the clarity on the car. If Bradley pulls on this a little bit, do it over the headlight so I can see. But I mean, it's thick it takes some force to try to like penetrate that with a rock or anything like that. So this is why paint protection film is the best way to protect against rock chips and road debris. You can see all this excess kind of sitting here. So we go through and cut that, and that's what Bradley's doing right now. You can see he's leaving just a little bit. We'll tuck and roll that over. So this is what bulking is. It's hand cut. Normally, if you plotted this in the plotter, it would plot, you know, the shape of this whole thing, and it would plot it with what, a 1/4 inch, usually outside past the body panel.
It depends on
the panel manufacturer.
Yeah, it depends on what you customize. If you just plotted this regularly, it would come right to the edge. So you can customize it to be as big as you want to extend it. Most people will do like 1/2 inch or so.
This doesn't have to be necessarily perfect. You want to get it as best you can, but that's what's going to tuck up under here so you get the edge of the body line rolled. So once it's all cut, Bradley's just going through and he's just getting right up to the edge there, but you don't wrap it yet, right? You don't wrap the edge.
No. You can definitely. It just takes more time, and you have more risk of leaving some moisture around the edge. So what I just did was basically flushed all of the edges with alcohol to allow them to dry a little bit faster.
Right.
And rinse out any of the soap solution.
Then we'll come back and then we'll roll the edges.
Yep, it'll be a little bit drier, and we can properly and efficiently roll the edges.
And there you have it. That looks killer. And that is called bulking a panel, ladies and gentlemen. You guys just saw that time lapse. I figured I didn't want to double show you the same process as the hood since we are bulking this, but you can see how it's laid. So essentially it's cut similar to the hood, and then there's going to be a cut that comes through here to pull this off. If you look at all the clarity on there. Windshield, we have it cut right up again up front. You can see there. So that is going to basically, we're going to let this all dry like we are with the hood here. And then this is gonna get tucked in over there, because believe it or not, especially when you're on track, if you guys are new to the channel here, I do a lot of track driving. Edges like this, like right over top of the windshield, actually get a lot of rock chips. Like believe it or not, you get little pepper marks in there. So important part for me was to really make sure we get that edge wrapped up under there. I know it doesn't sound like much, but the one place that you don't put the film is the one place where you'll find a chip. It's happened to me on all my vehicles. So especially with tracking and want to really track this, I want to make sure we have this as protected as we can. So just taking that extra time to go through and wrap that. If you template that, is that rolled on the template, or is it cut to the edge?
So if you templated this just in the software, it's going to be cut right to the edge.
So it's not going to roll, it's just going to stop right at the edge.
Exactly. You can customize it. A lot of people will customize it, and you can drag out patterns and customize it if you wish.
Right.
But again, there's quite a bit of stretch in this roof. So to get that cleanly, it's honestly just easier to do a bulk piece and hand cut it. You're going to get a much better finish.
So what we ended up having to do, and I always keep saying we, but it's really...
It's we.
We
got a Troy.
I squeegee the back corner.
Yeah, we got a squeegee in Troy's hand.
I got the back corner. I'm watching to start here, and that's the best way for me, is just I'm observing, I'm asking questions. So essentially from what I understand, which I kind of knew this going into it, but you basically get your big square laid on the panel and tack down an area on not the panel that you're wanting it to be covered. So we tacked it down because we had, you know, all this excess. It was tacked down here and started pulling. And if I back up a little bit, you'll see how this is curved. So we didn't have to really stretch on the hood because the hood's flat. So to get this, you have to tack it down here, and you almost have to stretch it. So you essentially work quadrants and corners. So we worked here, stretched this way, tacked here, went over there, pulled that this way, tacked there, and then went to this corner and pulled it this way, right? And then came back to here, released it, pulled this way, and that's how you kind of worked out all the bubbles. So realistically, it's actually a pretty smart, methodical process, and pretty simplistic when you think about it. It's just executing it and knowing how to do what panel the right order. So that's where we're at. We're gonna finish up the roof here, and I think we're gonna be doing fenders here next and go from there. So hope you guys are liking this content. I'm having a grand old time here learning. I always like learning new things, so it's enjoyable so far. And this STEK film is really simple to work with. Like, it's really easy to work with. It's stretched really well, and the clarity, I don't have to really say much more on that. You guys can see that. Look at the hood. Here you guys have basically the finished product on the roof. You can see where we're talking about folding and wrapping under there. It is all folded, and the seam where we'll mate up is right in here. It might not show on camera, but that's kind of the point. Where, you know, we're just gonna mate up, because this whole piece from here all through this A-pillar, all to this rear quarter is all one piece. And that'll just line up with the line there, and then you can see back here, it's also folded down. We are getting ready to lay the fenders, and basically once the fenders are done, we're gonna call it a night for day one. But essentially Bradley said I should film this, because he does it a little differently, but we have the piece pretty much measured out. This is also gonna be bulked, but he said his method's a little different, and he said he wants to show it to you guys. So I said, sure, I'll film it. So I will let him take over from here. What's the method that you kind of do your fenders?
Well, I was just gonna show the way that I get like the actual film onto the panel. It's a bit different than the way we've done the last few times where you've helped me and we sort of walked it over.
Do you roll it on?
Yeah.
Kind of like a template, like you back roll it?
Yep, correct.
So essentially, instead of having a big square that we walk over that's wet, he'll probably either tack it on starting here or here, correct me if I'm wrong, tack it on someplace and then back roll it off as we go. Is there a reason, a specific reason why you do it that way versus letting it bulk hang down?
You limit walking film over. You can always catch a little bit of dust that's in the air or something like that. So doing it on, you know, smaller panel like this, back rolling, is always better. You're gonna get a little bit cleaner of a finish. So
I guess you could technically back roll everything.
you could, yeah.
If you want to.
It's a little bit more trickier on something like a hood, especially if you're by yourself. You can get wrinkles, and since when you're back rolling it, the film isn't wet. If it does touch itself, you're sort of screwed. So
Right.
it's always something to think about.
Another reason why we put the wheel covers on, you can see what's going on here, all this falling down on here. It's just saving you guys time trying to clean up, getting all the wheel spokes and everything. So just throw some wheel covers on there and it makes it a lot easier to clean up. Similar to the roof, you're tacking it to an adjacent panel so you can work everything around. So you saw it tacked here, tacked down there, tacked up on the front bumper. And it'll do the same thing down here, pull it down that way, so you can start working those legs out and start pulling the film the ways it needs to go. So at some point this will either go up or come back down to pull that. Starting to look good. We are all tacked down. Just need to trim up around the lights, get the headlights. Bradley's getting the edge there. Just have to wrap the edges here, tuck that around on the fenders there. Pretty much done. You guys saw bulk land on the fender, back rolled on. It's all trimmed up. So all this, similar to the hood and everything, that's gonna get tucked up and rolled right up in there. Same with here, it's gonna come back around. Even right up here at the corner, he'll trim that tip so that tip of the film runs right on the tip of the fender there. Same here, let it all dry out. Even down to around the headlights, let that all dry out. The only piece he's really tucking right now is just right around where the fender meets the bumper. And then this will go up under where the side markers go in, and there you have it. I haven't had much hands-on with it, but it just seems...
The look is like no other film that's on the market.
The hydrophobic, which we talked about earlier, like watch this when you spray.
This is just alcohol and it was just installed, so I mean without alcohol in it, it'll be better, but...
Yeah. That's pretty ridiculous. The gloss is, it looks like it just has a coat. I mean, it technically, I guess, has a coating on it, but that's a big deal.
Like if you feel it, like this doesn't feel like any other like PPF. Like this.
It doesn't have that plastic.
Yeah.
So PPF normally feels like a plastic,
yeah,
like
sticky.
Like picture a thick trash bag, like a black landscape, like a black landscaping bag.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what it normally feels like. This just feels like super smooth, decontaminated paint. Which, and it looks amazing. If you can see, there's no PPF line. You don't see that. Normally what there is there's, on a template, it comes up here and then there's a little relief cut here so they can fold right over to here, and then this little tip is exposed. But what's done, if I can show you, it's essentially capped. So you can see a little of the PPF that we're gonna go through and tighten up around here, but right here, it's capped around. And that's details, that's super important, and you can only realistically get that if you bulk lay. I mean, you can't get that on a template.
Nope.
Where there's gonna be seam lines is where, because I don't wanna disassemble, so you know, we'll have seams like just right here for the door panel so we can not have to take the mirror off. That's my choice, but most installs like this, when you're doing a whole car and you're spending that money, all that comes off. So door panels come off, you take the mirrors off, and you essentially do the same thing and lay on the door. But that's just my choice and what I wanted, because we didn't want to be messing with that. But how do you think it went? Give me a 30-second.
Oh yeah, it's all good. Everything's going great so far. The color's really unique to work on. You see a lot of little specks of dirt, and really any like inconsistency in the film, this paint highlights it, so it's a unique color to work on, but I think it's coming out great. That's gonna wrap it up for the basic install, at least for tonight anyways.
I'm super happy with it. Bradley is killing it. I'm learning a ton, and I'm just sitting here. The only piece that I really worked on was the far right corner of the roof so far. I'm still trying to absorb this and kind of learn the process. So essentially, I'm just a fly on the wall. I'm watching Bradley and asking questions, and to me, the only way that I'm gonna learn is to do that and then pick it up and try it. So I think we're thinking we'll probably have me do the top of the wing at the end, and then that way, if I mess that up, it's a small piece that we can just rip off and do again. But I'm super happy with how this came out. I was a little worried about pulling the PPF off in the beginning, just because there's always a risk of pulling paint. But that came off. Once that came off, we were ready to go. So that's pretty much it for the first night here. And yeah, it's looking good.